Hello all. Today I'm discussing an application featuring clustering method. Clustering is basically an unsupervised machine learning mechanism or algorithm. It helps to analyze and cluster unlabeled data sets. These algorithms discover hidden patterns or data groupings. Its ability to discover similarities and differences in information make it the ideal solution for data exploration. It can be used in any field. Clusters are basically collections of data based on similarity. So here I can show you an example of a cluster. So this is a cluster of data. This is a resistivity data plotted against depth. So here we can see that clusters, there are three clusters. They are named cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3. So although you can see the trend of the resistivity data as it progresses. So here we have higher resistivity. So basically it is the data is categorized into three clusters. This cluster of these clusters are based on the similarities among the data points, meaning that the cluster one data points are similar in their behavior or in their features, and cluster two is entirely different from cluster three uh, and cluster one. So this helps to visualize the data segmentation. Apart from the trend that we can see here, we can also see that the data points are falling under three clusters. So let me show you how I'm doing it. So I'm going to select my file. So here I'm selecting my file. This cluster estimator helps me to define the number of ideal clusters that can be formed with this algorithm. So this is an elbow method. So this is based on Euclidean distance. It is basically, simply speaking, it is eliminating the difference among the data points. It is falling from top down here, and from here onwards, the dissimilarity is minimum. So I am taking 3 as the ideal number of clusters, as the elbow plot tells me that the best possible number of clusters is 3. So I enter 3 here and I click on the cluster plot. Then I can see that my data, ROP data against depth, is segregated into 3 clusters. So here we cannot make out any trend, but if it is uh, not a clustered data, we would not have any input from this uh, graph, because it doesn't show any clear cut trend line. We cannot say that um, the data is following any particular pattern or direction. So that way, it will leave us without any input. At least we can say that with clustering, we can say that we have three clusters for the data from 1000 meters to 2150. So that's one way of looking at it. Here we have this gamma ray plot. The gamma ray trend we can visualize from the plot. Apart from that, we can also see that our data is grouped under three classes or three clusters. Also, we can see that there are some data points that are farther away from the data centers, I mean cluster centers. Cluster centers are called centroids. So these data points are outliers. So these outliers may be genuine or may not be genuine. That is depending on the expertise of the user. So obviously we can say that anything about 200 can be some kind of genuine anomaly or spiky data because we rarely see gamma ray above 200 in normal oil fields or maximum is 250. It can be possible, but in a shady environment, it is rarely seen. So we can assume that there are some data points that are erroneous or spiky or doubtful, dubious behavior. Okay, here we have the resistivity data for the same, and initially the resistivity is higher, maybe because of calibration or anything like that. And I don't want to deal deeper into that aspect of the data. Here, this data is surely not genuine data. Although it is in the database, we can see that this is an erroneous data. Let me dig into the data. Okay, so the P6 data I have to see. So here is the P6 data. Okay, here we can see that see here. See, you can see that the resistivity was following normal pattern up to 5677 meters, and after that suddenly it spiked to 151, and those unreasonable data points until say 5700. Okay, so it is really a spiky data which we need to eliminate. Okay, so this is another example of clustering, and here we can say that this helps to understand the erroneous behavior of the data. Apart from visualizing the three clusters, and we can say that the erroneous data is in cluster 1, and genuine data is in cluster 3, as when genuine positive beneficial data is in cluster 3 as well, because this is an increase in resistivity which we are looking for in the oil and gas industry while drilling for oil and gas. Then we have resistivity data again. There is another resistivity data. This is a big, very big data from 1000 meters to 12,000, I mean, 1000 feet, less than 1000 feet to 12,500 feet. So here also we have three clusters, and cluster 1 is having more numbers, of course, and it is having a positive, desirable response in the resistivity. Here we can see that there is a trend. Unlike the ROP data, all these data are showing trend, because ROP is influenced by external factors such as weight on bit, RPM, pump output, pump flow, etc., mud weight, and other details, etc. So here, this is not externally influenced. There is no external influence. The sensors are reading what they are calibrated for. Okay, here we have again resistivity, which is of the same well, but they are the resistivity data points are divided into uh, much smaller interval, so that more granularity is achieved from 8550 to 8900 or 9000 feet. So let me see that again. So it is this interval that is further segregated, further divided into smaller component. So in this interval also, we can see that this data, when divided into smaller units, it is clustered under three clusters. So much more granular picture is available with this um, division of data. Okay, so next one is bulk density data. Bulk density data, here also we can see that there is a trend. As I told earlier, it is pure true behavior of the formation, because it is all these responses are not influenced by external factors other than calibration. So we can see that there is a trend, and this bulk density data is falling under three clusters. Again, the bulk density data is subdivided, and then it forms three clusters. See, 8550 is around here from the center point to the end of the, or close towards the end of the cluster 1. Then we have this sonic data. Sonic data is also plotted here for the same well. And then also we can see that it is 3 clusters. We can increase the number of clusters by giving more cluster points or more centroids, but then it won't be helping us much because if there is no density around the extra center points, then the clusters may not form. And this is the spontaneous potential plotted and clustered. Apart from this, I can show that the clusters that we form can be put into columns. We can add new columns for identifying the clusters in digital data. Earlier, we were seeing it in visualizing mechanism or media like a graph. Here we have the data segregated into columns. This is cluster number 1, cluster number 2, cluster number 3. And here, this cluster 2 is the starting point. And this is ROP, of course. ROP is plotted against the depth, and the cluster number 2 is starting from depth of 4297. So it is there until 5260, and from then it is cluster 1. Okay, we have cluster 2 from 4297 till, yes, till 4776, and from 4776 it is cluster 3 until depth of 5262, and from 5263 it is cluster 1 all the way down till the end. So this is a better mechanism or a method to uh, to display the data against the columns and rows. So cluster number 1, cluster number 2, cluster number 3 are all plotted against their respective depths. So that's about clustering. Thanks for watching.